welcome to Scrappin with Sheri and page 71 in our sketchbook. Now, if you were with me for the 4th of July, you saw me use the Perfectly Patriotic collection. I cut a lot of circles out of the different pieces, but I figured I would just store that Patriotic collection away and not use it again until next year. Well, fortunately for me, 4 of my kids went to a ball game. We've got a local AA team, and their colors are red, white, and blue. And they sent me pictures, which doesn't always happen. So I've got some pictures to work with. And we're going to do this page 71 using some of the pieces from this Patriotic collection. Now, let's just look at cutting the pieces first, and then we'll go from there. Now, I'm going to use this one as my background, and I'm not sure which side yet, so I've just kind of laid it there, but that'll be a full background. Our next biggest piece in here is going to be a piece that's 9 3/4 by 8. So I'm going to look at these scraps that I have and see which one would even lend itself to that size. And we could get an 8 out of that. And this stripe would probably look good either way I go on that. So let's go with it. We're going to do the 8 this way. Look how well that used up that scrap. And we'll do our 9 3/4 this direction. So we'll get that done. And then we're going to need all these little taggy things. And then we've also got a long piece here that is 2.5 by 11.5. I'm going to hang on about doing that because I'm not sure my photos are going to fit into that smaller size. And I want to see how this is going to develop before I cut a bunch of pieces. Now, I do know on the layout, this is going here. And it fits a little bit closer to the top than the bottom if you look at it. It's a little, there's a little bit less space there than at the bottom. I do also like this. Oh, this is making it really tough. But I've also got to keep in mind, I've got all these little pieces here that I'm going to have to do something with. But I could use the plaids on those. You know what? Let's just commit and go. I'm even going to tape it. I just feel that confident about this. So let's go with it. My in-person customers are always saying, oh, it's just paper. Because I do say that a lot. I'm going to slide this near the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and make some of these little taggy things. And I have pulled out the 3-in-1 Bevel Punch from Creative Memories. This one is still available. And I felt like this would be a good one to use here because I can just have those little colors going down the side. Now it looks like all of those are 1 by 2. The 2-inch being the width. So I'm going to need to make it 2 inches on here. Which means I just need to cut some of these scraps to be 2 inches wide. My workspace is getting a little cluttered. What do you do when you're creating? Do you just make a giant mess and just keep working out of it? Or do you have to clean up in between? How does that work for you? I know some people are just really neat and organized. I have to clean up between each project because it makes me crazy otherwise. But I see some people who just work for days. Why don't we open that? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen that's the ribbon. The bevel, the 3-in-1 bevel, but it's made with a 1 inch, a 2 inch, or a 2.5 inch. So whatever size you cut it, your paper just fits right down in that nice little tray for you to punch. And then I'm going to cut these off to be 1 inch. I'm actually going to cut mine a little bit longer just because they are not squared off. And I don't want the open part to be right up against the edge. So I'm going to do mine at about 1.5. But I can use both sides of this paper since I've got this pattern. And do that again at 1.5. And then we'll do a couple out of this as well and see where we are. It looks like we're going to need about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these. Now we can't do the blue because that's not going to show, but I will do one more of that plaid. At least one more, because that'll give me a couple of different varieties to add in there. Now I could go ahead and add this in. That's going to be dark enough to do something on the background. So I really need to cut this at the 2 long ways. That way it'll fit into my shape maker a little bit better, into the punch. I'm going to go ahead and punch both ends of this right now, and then we'll cut them both off at the same time. And I probably could go ahead and use this side as well, even though it matches the bigger piece that we did. There's going to be a little border there, so I think it would be okay to use this. Now, I chose to use the Patriotic paper because I didn't have anything baseball left. We haven't had any real baseball stuff in quite a while. So I felt like using the Patriotic paper would be good, since those are our team colors anyway. And those are the colors the kids are wearing. And it's a good way to use up some of the Patriotic paper. All right, let's lay those out and see what we got. Now on theirs, they show a row of 4 of them. And they're butted right up against this. So, probably really be helpful if I had another red one in there. I may just have to cut another piece of red just to add one more in. A lot of pattern going on. You know what? I'm not loving the way that peeks through these over on the side. So I think I'm just going to use my scissors and trim those down. When I say peeks through on the side, it was coming through the holes here, and I didn't really like that. But that's pretty cute. There's always another way to make it work for you. And there's just something about the little tab thing on there that I like. Now, if you don't have the tag maker, the bevel shape maker, and you want to do this page very similarly, all you've got to do is cut these as a 1x2 and then corner around those outside edges. And we do have another one of these if I wanted to switch it. I do think it fades too much right there, though. We're going to keep the plaid. All right, so let's go ahead and stick those real fast. And what I'm going to do is kind of stick the top one and the bottom one. Let me see. I'm trying to see how all this lines up, because there's a whole nother piece of paper in there too we've got to go back and add. This has got a lot of pieces to it. Very multifaceted. Okay, and then to add these underneath, I'm just going to pop a piece of tape on there and just kind of center it under what we got going on. I am trying to look at how much spacing I've got on this outside edge here and trying to make those somewhat even. I didn't realize I made 2 of those the same, but it's okay because they're separated. Wow, this is already harder than I thought I was going to be, but I knew there were a lot of parts to this. So let's go back and look at the sketch a minute. We've got this big one We've got all these little pieces done. There is another piece here, and one of those little things goes out to it. I'm not sure if I like that or not. It's a 9 3/4 by 1. I'll give it a shot anyway. And I think I'm going to cut it with this right here. So I really just need the 1 inch length or width. Width. And if I did it the 9 3/4, that would be to match up exactly with this piece right here. But because I didn't do mine on the end exactly the same, I think I want this to go all the way across there. Well, let me see. There's actually scoots over some and then goes across. And then it butts into one of these, but I'm not going to do another one of those here. So let's stop it right here. Yeah, I don't know what that measurement is. I'm just cutting it. And remember, yours is not going to be exactly like mine anyway, because you probably follow directions better than I do. So the sketch is an inspiration, but not a hard, fast rule. We just kind of make it work. Now that's definitely a good look. All right. And then we're going to have to work on our pictures. We need a border here. Let me just grab my stickers from this collection and see if there's a border that would work down through there. And there we have one. Look at that. Those stars would be perfect for the ball game. They don't scream patriotic, but they are going to set this area apart just a little bit. How cute is that? And they need to stop right here at this border. Oh, y'all, I think that's adorable. It's amazing what a difference it made just to add that little border between those pieces. I'm making sure I've gotten it right on that seam. We'll save those little stars for later because I'm sure we'll find a spot to use them at another time. And let's go ahead and look at laying out our pictures, and then we'll decide what we're going to do about this long strip that goes through here. So what they've got is one almost full-size picture, and that's a good one for that. We've got a 5 by 4 here, and I could use that one for that. And then this one we could cut down a little bit smaller, and probably this one as well. They're trying to show where they were sitting on this. So let's get the personal trimmer and do a little trimming. And here I'm going to cut the top off of that because that sky turned out so white. It's pretty distracting. My daughter-in-law's work place actually rented like a skybox or whatever they're called. I don't really know. And my older son and his wife were also going that night, and they got invited to come sit in the skybox too. So they all got to be together, and I know they had a great time. So we've got that and that. Now my pictures aren't quite as big as it shows. And these two, if I want to fit them in that tabbed thing, I'm going to need to make them the same width. So I'm going to chop out that person behind us. And this picture is ending up being about, we're going to make it 3.5 and see if that will fit here. A 2-inch picture is pretty small. So if I can make another one to be a 3.5, then we can make that nice little line right there. And there we go. And again, I'm going to cut off sky here. All right. that means that we're going to be able to make that banner thing. And because our photos are 3 1/2, we're going to need to make the banner about 3 3/4. And I'm going to do it out of that red that I mentioned I really liked. I've still got scraps of it. I'm going to use the full length here because I don't know how long I want that banner to be. So we're going 3 3/4 on the banner. And really I'm just going about 1/4 more than my photos. Again, my photos are not the size that they're called for. And because I've made this wider, I'm not going to be able to go back and use my bevel punch on the top of this to make it match everything else. That makes me a little not happy, but we'll pull the corner around her and make it work. And I had intended to use my ribbon punch to do the bottom of this, but here again, my paper is too wide for that, so we're going to have to pivot. And I'm going to do that by just kind of putting the open sides together and just chopping from the middle to the point. That gives me that banner. And I can cut a little more off of this. You see I'm still shaving away. But I was even thinking I might put a little journal box in there just to tell about this night. So I want to be sure I've got enough room for all the parts. And here we can cut that down a little bit, round the corners on it so it's almost like that, but not quite. And then we'll do a little matting on these two and we'll be finished. So I found this scrap of paper, which is going to make a really nice little journaling tag. I'm going to go ahead and stick these photos so I can work with this and move it around. The red worked out really well over here because it pulls in a lot of the red from the pictures. Pulls in that one little red piece we used there. And it's a good framing for the pictures. Since they're kind of light background, this deeper red really helps them stand out more. And that's a touch too tall, so I'm going to trim off a little at the top of that. And we'll just round the corners. And we got it all on there. Yay. So we just need to mat these two. Clean out my spots again. There's so many things laying here. I've got this leftover piece of navy. Lots of colors I could pull in, but because that background, especially at the top, is really light, I just felt like we needed that darker color there. And I could have done that very easily with my 12-inch trimmer, but I've laid it to the side and can't put my hands on it right this second. And one more. That's where that new photo trimmer that's coming out really soon is going to be really handy. We'll be able to trim pieces like this without having to move back and forth between the two trimmers. I am super excited about that. Okay. Down to the final features of this page. Now, if you notice on the sketch, their journaling is really just right along the bottom here. I think I liked all of it kind of being encompassed in the design. So I'm happy with the way this is shaping up. It is a little top heavy, but I think there's something about this banner coming down that just makes it all work together. And I am I'm going to overlap a little. I'm not going to have embellishments for this because I don't have any baseball embellishments. So it's really going to be a focus on the pictures. Now, I've made this overlap those pictures just a little because I like things touching. I've got just a teeny tiny edge here hanging off. I'm just going to trim that. And I'm going to go back with my repositionable tape and just pop a couple of dots on the corner of that so that it doesn't come up when I'm trying to put my page protector on. Now, aside from journaling, this page is done. It is a one-pager. I could go back and add some fireworks or some stars or something like that, and I may look into that as I start to put it away. But this is page 71 in our sketchbook. Relatively true to the sketch. We did pretty good on this one. And we're using the Perfectly Patriotic collection. So until I see you next time, happy scrapping.